Hi, welcome back to the workshop for episode 6 of the Micawber Telecaster build, and in this episode we're going to take the neck blank and turn it into the beginnings of a guitar neck. Okay, so the first step in making this neck is just to do a little bit of work on the neck blank itself. You may remember way back in the first episode I spoke about how there was a slight cup to the board, and what I mean by that is the wood is kind of curved in this direction a little bit. I've planed the top off and that is now nice and flat, so the cupping's gone from the top. There's still a little bit on the bottom, but if you bear in mind we're going to cut away the vast majority of the perimeter of this board, that will take care of that cupping from that perspective. If there's still any, once we've done that, I can just clean it up with a hand plane, but it will be very, very minimal. Okay, so I've just trued this top edge up now with a even bigger hand plane. And now I'm ready for the foundational step of any neck building exercise, and that's to get the centre lines in onto this blank. So I'm going to work from the edge I've just trued up. And that's measuring at 119 mil, so that's 58.5. Here's the centre. That's pretty consistent. I'll just strike that centre line in. It doesn't have to be absolutely 100% central. But once you've established your centre line, you need to stick with it. And we've already established that this is the top. Mark that as top. And this is going to be the headstock end. So I'm going to just mark that with a H, just in case, because you never know. We don't want to end up making a left-hander. Now this end of the board is absolutely fine, but there's a little bit of a shake on this end, so we want to avoid that if we possibly can. So I'm going to position my neck away from that, and I'm just going to sketch this in as a reference. It's not the actual finished shape of the neck, that can always change. but for now that's where we'd like it. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is route for the truss rod. Now, the customer supplied me with a truss rod, and it's one of these C-channel type rods. I believe they're also called Martin style rods. Never used one before, but looking at it and having a quick play with it, it's apparent that as you tighten it, this part of the channel raises up. So logically, theoretically, that needs to be the part that is facing the fretboard. So this actually goes in with the open side down, and it's also going to adjust from the heel because there's no real way it can adjust from the headstock end. So what I need to do now is just mark out where my truss rod channel needs to start and finish. I'm going to leave a little bit of meat at the heel so I can drill through for the access. And that's the end point. Now this channel is actually 10mm wide, which is about 4mm wider than I would normally route out for a truss rod. Generally truss rods are about 6mm for the two-way type. So I've had a look at all my router cutters that I've got in stock, and the one that I've got that's suitable for this task is 9.5mm. So I might just have to kind of do a couple of passes just to widen the channel out a little bit. We'll see. It might be with the action of routing it and a 9.5mm cutter that I actually cut a 10mm channel anyway. We'll just have to see. Okay, so I need to get this set up at the other end of the bench in the tail vise, and then we'll get some routing done. Okay, so I'm nearly set up for this route now. Just a couple of things. When you're setting up for these, to make sure that you're getting your router cutter perfectly centered, use one of these little V bits, because that point will be central to the cutter. Once you've established that central position, you can then swap out your cutter for the actual cutter you're going to use. In this case, 9.5mm. I think that's 3/8 or something in old fashioned. And then you're set up ready to go. Now I'm going to cut this in probably 3 passes, so I'll set it to go down 3mm, then I'll set it to go down 6mm, and then finally I'll take it down to the 10mm. That's the final depth of cut. Okay, there's the truss rod all fitted. In the end I took about 4 passes to get down to the 10mm depth, and that's absolutely spot on, so that's perfectly flush now, so that's great. And I had to just move the router over this way about 1/2 mil just to make the channel just that little bit wider. So I mean, if you wanted to be really picky, you could say that this truss rod is sat 1/2 millimetre towards the treble side. I don't think it'll make an ounce of difference. And it's also worth noting what a nice clean job the new cutter in the Triton router has made of this truss rod channel. It's absolutely flawless. Right, next step, get this onto the bandsaw and cut out the perimeter shape. Okay, so following the trauma of the base neck that I made a few months ago, if you haven't seen that series, I'll put a link somewhere up there so you can have a look at it. I just want to check that this neck blank is still straight, and as you might be able to tell there, it's absolutely spot on. So that's absolutely fantastic news. So next up, I'm going to get this onto the disc sander, kind of clean it up as much as I can on that. I might just clean up some of the headstock on the spindle sander as well, just get that as close as possible, and then we'll get it onto the table router with the template and route the perimeter. So, just get this attached now with some masking tape and super glue and get it to the router table. Okay, so that router sounded very, very sick indeed. I don't think that's going to route much longer, but it's done a really nice job of cutting this to shape. So let's just get the template off, see how we've done. And there we have one nice Telecaster shaped guitar neck. In terms of fit to the body, the news that I was wanting was that it doesn't really fit at all. I could force that in if I really wanted to, but I'm not going to. I'm going to have to sand on this neck anyway, so that gives me the control to make this an absolutely spot on perfect fit. So that's really, really good news. So for the time being, that's about as far as we can go, but we've got the basis of a really good neck here, which is great. So what I'm going to do is put this to one side, just let it acclimatise to being this shape for a couple of days, and then check it with a straight edge just to see that it hasn't moved at all. Hopefully it won't have done. And in the time being, I will break the fingerboard out and start to get that prepared and ready for fretting. So I need to go away now and have a long and very interesting conversation with the customer about fingerboard radiuses, but I'll be back very soon when we'll get the board radiused and start to get some frets put into it. So as always, I really, really appreciate you taking the time out to watch these videos. Like if you've liked, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.